Welcome back and thanks for staying with us. We do apologize for starting the show 6 minutes later than our normal scheduled time. We do apologize for that. But of course, we welcome you back to the big conversation. My name is Victor. Okay.
My name is Martha Alu. Good morning to you. It's good to have you back here. At 9 o'clock, what we basically do is have the big conversations. And today we go again, spotlighting issues that are centered around Nigerian system. And today's conversation is one that is definitely of particular interest to us and to our country, Nigeria.
Of course, we are discussing a major development in our country, Nigeria, talking about some of the ambassador nomination here in the country. Talking about Nigeria's foreign policy, of course, the governance of our great nation, Nigeria, the Senate ongoing screening of the ambassador list. According to the president, he's had a blend of both career and non-career diplomats, he calls it. But of course, to join us on the conversation this morning is someone who understands the workings and, of course, the foreign policies of our great nation, Nigeria, Dr. Festus Oguche. Good morning to you, sir, and welcome to the conversation.
Good morning to you, sir.
Just a moment. I don't know if my microphone.
Dr. Festus, can you hear us?
Good morning. Good morning to the both of you. It's a great being
we can barely hear anything he's saying here. Can you help us check that? Can you hear us, Dr. Festus?
Okay, hear you loud and clear.
All right, this is better
Thank
now.
you so much.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us on the conversation this morning.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So let's begin the conversation. First of all, what do you think of the mixture of the career and non-career diplomats as that has been nominated for the ambassadorial position of our great nation, Nigeria?
Well, that has always been the tradition, not just in Nigeria, but in the parts of the world, that in choosing your ambassadors, the people to represent you, take some of them from the career field, some of them who have been in the ministry or who have been in the diplomatic service for quite some time, and choose some prominent members of the society who are well attuned with diplomacy, with the traditional aspects of interaction with international agencies and authorities, with as representatives of your country. So it's nothing new. It's always has been like that. You cannot have a wholesome group of professional or career ambassadors to represent the country. There must be also that aspect of the non-career persons who are well qualified, have proven integrity, and who have showed some level of ability and capacity to represent a country in a foreign land. So it's the same thing. It's just the normal style of getting diplomats and ambassadors to represent a country. So it's nothing new.
All right. Before we get into the names and, trying to unpack some of the things that you said people with integrity, people that have quite a commendable track record. Before we get into that, why is it so important that we have ambassadors represent us out of Nigeria? And what does it do for our global image?
It's a long history. I think it started in Europe, where the traders, people who wanted to trade, need the protection of their country in a foreign land, and they advanced gradually from that stage to a stage where there was need to be formal representation, from one state to the other, to represent the interests of the country, represent the interests of the people, the citizens of that country in a foreign land, and ensure that their trades and their businesses are well protected, and their agreements are agreements in which they enter into. Agreements they enter into with the citizens of that other country are observed and enforced. So it was a gradual process until it advanced into maybe something a little more sophisticated, where it's now a formal system of having representations, by a country in another country, and to ensure that certain aspects of its relations and its transactions with the country are respected, and from there it got bilateral connections, and it advanced from there also to multilateral conventions and treaties, to ensure that states abide by their obligations to one another. So it's something like a sophistication of interaction, interrelation, discourse, intercourse between countries, between one country and another. And it's one of the basic principles that holds the world together, holds the international system together, by which people are now well assured and guaranteed that whatever they do in a foreign country legitimately is protected under the law, under international law, under the domestic laws of both countries. So it's very important that that kind of intercourse exists. If not, you will not talk about an international community, for instance, or a committee of nations.
Very true. Now you see how, or rather you saw how the screening was carried out by the Senate, of course, to some of these ambassador nominations, or nominees as it is. So to many of them, it was more like a bow and go. To some of them, Nigerians also question that these individuals were not properly grilled or screened. And so many Nigerians came out to say that, well, we didn't really get to pick the knowledge or the brains of these people who are expected to represent Nigeria on the international scene. Now, looking at that screening, would you say that the Senate actually did a good job in screening the nominees that were sent to them?
But when it comes to appointments and the ratification of such appointments by the legislature, I think it's something that should be taken seriously, because the legislature plays the big role of ensuring that persons with credible and long-standing reputation are appointed to very positions of authority, positions of government. And that is because the executive could just pick and choose at its own whims and caprices of anybody that they feel should occupy that position, considering a lot of things that are not well within the ambit of what the qualifications should be. It could just be mere party patronage. It could just be maybe relations, friends, and all that. So it's for the legislator to see. So I don't know where they got this bow and go. I don't know where they got that culture from. But I don't think that's what obtains in foreign lands, particularly in serious areas like appointments of ministers, and appointments of ambassadors. That's a more serious thing to do, because the credentials of the one you appoint at home here be put to serious and vigorous test by the country that is receiving him. Ambassadors are not chosen anyhow, whether career or non-career. So it's not something that somebody stands up and says you should bow. You put it to critical analysis, critical assessment of his appointments, of his activities, particularly for the non-career ones, of his engagements. Are you listening to me?
Yeah, what with you?
Okay. Of his engagements, of his past activities. And then you go into the very important area of assessing the extent of his knowledge of international law, extent of his knowledge of international relations, extent of his knowledge of diplomacy. Some of them will be going to act maybe as, not just as ambassadors, but as consul, and requires certain minute details of what they know about the portfolio they're about to be given. So it's not just somebody coming in and saying, go about. Then we are talking about a lazy legislature. Let us not impute laziness to our National Assembly, but it's beginning to sound very much like that. The business of appointments of an ambassador is a very serious one, particularly for a country like Nigeria that has become almost a barrier in international, the eyes of the international community, going by the activities of government, going by banditry, going by the killings, going by, the brigandage that's going on, the false electoral system, the concerns of the judiciary, state capture. At least for now, we know that very well that Nigeria is one country where a subnational unit was deprived of democratic dividends or democratic rule by a president who's there and who adheres to democratic norms and who wants to tell the world that he's the defender of democracy. So if you're sending ambassadors across the world at this very critical time, it must be people with practical and intellectual ability, the capacity to understand the workings of the international system, the capacity to understand how to weaver, how to maneuver through difficult situations. And this may not require education in that light, but somebody who has the enablement and the capacity intellectually, practically, diplomatically to get to the areas of his concern, to solve very difficult critical questions that could arise because of his official assignment.
All right. Dr. Festus, now you have mentioned more than once the need to choose people.
I'm sorry about the dogs.
Oh, it's all right, sir.
It's all right. It's all right. But are you with us, Dr. Festus?
I'm with you. I'm here.
All right. You have mentioned more than once the importance of selecting people who have in-depth knowledge on what representing Nigeria outside the shores of Nigeria is about. People who have, you have to consider the antecedents of the past experiences of some of these people as well. Now, taking a look at the list, we have seen names such as Fani Kayode. We have seen names such as that of the former INEC chairman, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu. We have seen the likes of Reno Mokri on the list. High-profile career and non-career individuals, you know, their names reflecting on the list. However, we have seen a lot of resistance from the Nigerian community about some of these names that have been reflected on the list. Now, some analysts say that it looks more like a political compensation. If you look at the names of the people that comprise that list of ambassadorial nominees that came from the president, some were of the opinion that these looks like a political compensation for some of the people there. Professor Mahmoud Yakubu just left the office right now, serving the capacity of the INEC chairman, and almost immediately after he left office, he's now being, you know, put into his name being put into, or he's now being considered as an ambassadorial nominee. What are your thoughts about this list? Now, away from what every other person think, what does Dr. Festus think about the names that are reflected on this list? Are these people able to represent Nigeria out of the shores of Nigeria, and in a way that is important, because it is critically essential that we have the people who understand the Nigerian system and how to represent us better outside Nigeria? So what are your thoughts on this?
I'll speak from a more generic point of view. I'll not pick out on some of these ambassadors, but I'll tell you first of all that even those ones that are listed as career diplomats, I don't know the extent to which the assessment has gone through. One thing I know about this government is that it thrives in favoritism when it comes to political appointments. It's not just, I'm not going into the inclination of government in appointing particular persons from one particular geographical area, but in terms of maybe the credence of persons that are given such appointments. I will say that it's not just saying that one is a career person in a particular area. We have to understand the extent of his ability and the positive effects of his careership, and to also know the extent to which he understands a particular social terrains, political terrains overseas, as for him to deliver the job or do appropriately well. For the career servants, the federal government and Federal Minister of Justice knows them well. I will not say that I'll take hook, line, and sinker every suggestion the federal government has made in that direction, because I know that within the internal mechanism of the civil service, there's also the issue of favoritism. There's also the issue of getting the wrong people into very serious, sensitive, and critical areas of governance, just for the asking, on the basis of nothing but tribal, religious, and ethnic affiliation. Well, that said, I would say that for appointments to ambassadorial positions, I think should go beyond just the federal government suggesting names. And that's one thing we have to do. I don't know if there's any constitutional provision that says that should be the procedure. But I would suggest that henceforth such names be put to critical tests and analysis
What kind of test and analysis are you recommending?
Verbal tests, oral tests.
But that's what the screening. That's what the screening is supposed to achieve.
The screening is not thorough. You are the ones telling me from your studio that there's been this mechanism of telling them to bow and go, to take a bow and go. Do you think it satisfies it satisfied my idea of a thorough test, of a critical test? It does not.
So what is your idea, Dr. Festus, what is your idea of a critical test? Because if these people are not critically screened or examined, then we risk sending the people who have little to no knowledge of what it means to represent a country internationally. So in your opinion, what are the questions that should be asked that have been left unasked during this screening? And what is your preferable method of screening these nominees?
The questions that should crop up ideally are questions touching on diplomatic and consular law,
okay,
international relations, social relations, international norms, human rights, international human rights. Not what's your name, how old are you? What's your qualification? No. If an ambassador is going to somewhere like Europe, a country in Europe, Portugal, or even because they have not been assigned to specific countries, they should give us an idea of what they know about very notable countries we have serious bilateral relations with, say the United States of America, to know how their judicial system functions, how it works. Questions bordering on if there's a face-off with Washington, what's the appropriate approach? How do you go about it?
Okay.
An ambassadorial position is not a ministerial position because he represents the country within the extent of the geographical jurisdiction of the country he's being sent to. So it's not something you ask him the basic questions you would ask a minister, for instance. I said written tests, practical tests about his ability and his competence, his capacity to deliver.
Do you think that Nigeria is even ready for that? Because like you have said, it's the same thing that goes on with ministerial appointments. It's the same thing that goes on with literally almost every appointment that goes on, you know, in the Senate. Recently, we saw someone being accused, Naji, the Minister of Innovation or something of that sort. Yes, yeah. He recently, his results were found to be doctored. He didn't actually have the results. For someone who went through a screening process, he wasn't screened by just one person. He was screened by an entire house. Do you think that Nigeria is ready for that reform? Because it's looking like we are bringing these people to occupy these positions, but we are not asking them the questions that are it's just like taking a job. You're going to the office to take a job, and then the only thing the employer is interested in asking you is what's your name, like you said, and how old are you? Yeah. How does that translate to actually carrying out the responsibilities that will be assigned you eventually on that role? So do you think that Nigeria is ready for these kinds of screening process, and what reforms do you think can be introduced in this system, just so we have people that have the hands-on knowledge to carry out these responsibilities?
The National Assembly must understand they have an onerous task in this direction, because the entire population of Nigeria cannot bring these persons that are appointed to critical assessments. It's the National Assembly that has the job to do. And like that's why I said earlier that I wouldn't want to impute laziness to the National Assembly, but it appears it's going in that direction. I'm very sorry to say that. But then there must be more seriousness in these things, much more than what we see with our own very eyes, particularly in the area of ambassadorial positions. I believe that the position of, that's why they call them excellencies. They are even the real excellencies beyond the governors and the presidents we have here. There's nothing attaching excellency to the governor. There's nothing attached excellence to the president. But for instance, if you appoint Reno Amokri as the ambassador to Brazil, he becomes His Excellency, and is addressed like that all over the world. So the appointment of an ambassador is of more critical importance than that of a minister. So he shouldn't follow that direction, even if there's nothing in the rules or in the constitution or in the laws to say that this is the proper procedure to take. We should advance courses to check out how China appoints its own ambassadors.
Now,
Or how, for instance, Russia appoints its own ambassadors. Everything must come to bear. So it's not just asking questions here and there. And if you look at even the quality of those appointed, why should we appoint the man who conducted the very last national elections, of which the president won? How would you recommend him as an ambassador to a foreign country? It tells a lot of stories about his position, stories about how he conducted the election, stories about his inclinations. Reno Omokri, for instance, what qualifies him to have an ambassadorial position? Or Femi Fani-Koyode? Or is it just because you can talk?
So
or you can talk?
If you're still looking at it, Dr. Festus, do recall that for a long time, Nigeria has not had ambassadors, occupying some of these positions, representing us in international space as it is, right? Of course, you've mentioned some of the names now, Reno Omokri, Femi Fani-Koyode as well. As well, it's seeming like as much loud as an individual is, that is how much of recognition you get in this part of the world. That's one side. But do you think that Nigeria is trying to be so fast in appointing ambassadors right now to help mitigate on the international scene, especially because of the do recall that the president of the United States of America, President Donald Trump, did refer to Nigeria as a country of particular concern. And that also, sparked widespread reactions, as it is. And many persons came out to say that Nigeria does not have international diplomats that could actually even negotiate and liaise with a lot of foreign countries, as it is. Do you think that this is one of the reasons why the Nigerian government is trying as much as possible to quickly begin now to have ambassadors representing Nigeria in various parts of the world?
Let me tell you one thing. You don't sacrifice thoroughness on the altar of speed. I also say that you don't sacrifice thoroughness on the altar of political expediency. You ask yourself initially, if Nigeria is not, in the words of President Trump, a shamed country, why will you have a country without ambassadors for some long period of time? I hope we are not dealing with issues of mediocrity here. Because I believe that you don't have any explanation to give to the world on your failures to have an ambassador, and choose that to run quickly to choose all manner of characters, people who are not qualified or unqualified or do not meet the standards of the criteria for an ambassador, and just put them there for the sake that you want to fill a gap. Is the world responsible for, if, for instance, the ambassadorial position in Brazil, is the world responsible for your failures to do the needful at the appropriate time, to have the ambassadors at the right time? The world is not responsible for that. And so we are saying, hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes. We are saying that Nigeria's ineptitude to appoint an ambassador is not the one that the world should be made to pay or suffer for it. Because if you are giving a country like, say, Argentina, an incompetent person as an ambassador, Argentina will suffer the brunt of that error or that mistake. And for that reason, we are saying that we should be very much averse with issues of competence, particularly when it comes to addressing the international issues. We can bear the incompetence at home, the bad governance at home, the terrible electoral procedures, the judicial capture at home, but not of matters touched on the international community, or issues that are purely within the array or within the arena of international law or international relations. You could have a very terrible governance at home, but the ambassador there outside in Brussels will be doing a very good job of presenting a very good government that's in place. That's where ambassadors come in, and that's why they're addressed as their excellencies. You don't just come and run away with one just character like that because you're trying to rush up with time, simply because Trump described your country in one manner that gives it a very dirty image. No, that's not how it is done. You must understand the workings of the international system.
Of course.
Okay. If we have waited for this long, to appoint an ambassador, then what's the rush in the screening process? Because I mean, the president has been in office well over 2 years.
2 years now.
So that's enough time. He had ample time to nominate whoever he wanted
You are
to.
making the exact point I just said.
Exactly.
You are making that exact. But that long period of time should be enough time for you to choose the best.
Exactly.
I mean, they are bound in this country. People with high practical and intellectual ability who can deliver the goals, who can go to Washington and turn the tide of times.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go to Washington and tell Washington the truth and not to be a tomboy of government who present to government where there's no killing in Nigeria. There's no need for any intervention. There's no need for people who stand solidly on the truth to tell the international community what is going around, or look for ways to alleviate some of these issues and impressions they have about Nigeria.
Dr. Festus, with all of the nominees, basically, do you see any one of them who can actually stand, toe to toe with these other countries and speak to them directly the truth without fear,
just like you have said,
favor, just like you've said earlier on?
Incidentally, I don't know any of the non-career ambassadors except for one or two things I've read about some of them.
Okay.
So I cannot here draw conclusions about them. But I believe that in appointing persons to ambassadorial positions, no, sorry, I'm talking about the career ambassadors. About if you're appointing persons to ambassadorial positions, there must be persons that are a little bit known. Even if they are unknown, you present their resume to the members of the public, their credentials, and such that we can see and verify and conclude that these people are appropriate. So for the career ambassadors, I don't know them, but like I said earlier, the federal government does know them. They are civil servants. They have been in the system, but whether the option of choice was exercised with all bit of circumspect and excellence and distinction, I do not know. I cannot vouch for that. But I think so somebody of my standing should be able to talk about 6, 7, 8, 9 of them.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I don't know that. But for the non-career ambassadors, I'm wondering why
Yakubu.
Professor Mahmood of INEC would be appointed an ambassador. I mean, anybody would suggest his name for that matter. He just retired some couple of months ago, as the lady pointed out. I wouldn't know why somebody like Reno Omokri, you don't appoint politicians, professional politicians in such positions of authority. No, people who are known to be politicians. I wouldn't want to call anybody a political jobber, but we know Femi Panika or they are Reno Omokri. They don't fit into that position. You can compensate them with things domestically, not ambassadorial positions. I think the time we understand the working of the international system and how it is important to the future of this country, the better for us.
All right. Because
the list of ambassadors, and I'm sure it also reflects in the career ambassadors.
Absolutely.
And not things that one should even cover with some shade of credibility. I believe that we could have done a better work. There are men of high practical and intellectual ability, people who are ready to work for this country, with all their might, with all their power, with all their intellect. And then they will begin to appoint for no basis.
Yeah. We're going to talk about qualification in a moment, but just stay with us. Let's quickly go on a break. When we'll come back, we'll continue with the conversation.
Beautiful. I'm here. Hang on.
This is Rapid Broadcasting Network, RBN. We connect people, power stories, and amplify voices. On Rapid TV, we're rooted in culture and your window to the stories that matter. From news to lifestyle, we inform, entertain, and uplift. Join Rapid TV on Star Times Channel 176. Nightcom Sat. On Rapid FM, we speak your language, from the soulful airwaves of Umuahia to the vibrant culture of Port Harcourt and beyond. More than broadcasters, we're creators, amplifying that voice within with powerful content across TV, radio, and digital. Join us at rbnradiotv.com and all our social media handles. One network, one voice. Rapid Broadcasting Network, RBN. The sound of your city. Rooted in truth. Driven by impact.
Welcome back. We're still watching the Rapid on right here on Rapid Television. Of course, we've been having the big conversation centered around the ambassadorial nomination. And our guest has been Dr. Festus Oguche, someone who has a good understanding of the international foreign affairs, of course, here in the country and, of course, beyond the country. Dr. Festus, once again, thank you for being here with us. Hello, Dr. Festus. Can you hear us? We've been talking with Dr. Festus Oguche, and he's been giving us his 2 cents concerning, the ambassadorial nominations. And whilst he's answering some of our questions, he's also raising some of the concerns, that is in the heart of many Nigerians. And before we went on that break, he asked the question. He said, "What is the likes of Reno Omokri doing on the list of the ambassadorial nomination? What is the likes of the recent INEC chairman, Professor Yakub Mahmoud, doing in the list? What is the like of Femi Fadekayode doing in that particular list of ambassador nominees?" These are questions and concerns that our guest has raised, and of course, he has also given us, some ideas, or basically maybe advice to the government, saying, of course, that if you must interview and have interactions with the nominees, then you need to do that thoroughly and do that from the place of wisdom, or as it is. But of course, Dr. Festus has joined us again. Dr. Festus, thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me now?
Hello, Dr. Festus, can you hear us?
I hear you loud and clear. I hear you very loud and clear.
Check your microphone if it's mute so that you can unmute it.
All right.
All right, better now. Thanks for joining us on the conversation again.
Yeah. The first placement of the camera gave us a better view.
Yeah, could you
please leave it that way? We had a better view.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Thank you.
The camera if you have given me ample time to prepare,
apologies on that, sir.
I use a laptop and all that. The clarity will be much more.
Apologies on that.
Let me remind us, if you may.
All right.
If you may, that there's a body called the Nigeria Institute of International Affairs.
Mm-hmm.
It used to be headed by the respectable Professor Bolaji Akinyele. For years, even during the military will not do anything on anything regarding international affairs without referring into it.
Yeah.
All the international foreign law policies of Nigeria in the 70s, through the years of the military, were shaped by that body. Non-alignment, Africa being the centerpiece of our foreign policy, and they did a very good job to it. Have we confirmed if the Institute of International Affairs had verified and confirmed the names submitted by the president? I'm sure he did not submit such names to that body, because it's a body that's constituted of well-known intellectuals, diplomats, international lawyers, people who are well-versed in international relations. Even the venture they went recently to do in Benin Republic, they did not consult the institute for advice, for professional advice. Even the one they ventured into Burkina Faso that is becoming a pain on our necks now, they never did that. So how do you just pick and choose names as if you are looking for persons to occupy local government positions or the positions in party hierarchies, and say that that's an ambassadorial position? That's my case. We have all these bodies that they know each and every, and the extent of the capacity of each of these career diplomats. I'm not sure a lot of them in that list, on that list, can fit into that picture.
How effective are these bodies right now? How effective are they, especially here in the country? How effective have they been even over the years?
The Institute of International Affairs is a global one. Almost all the countries, members of the United Nations, they have it. Because it's like an advisory body, a consultant for the nations that they function in.
Okay.
and Nigerians occupy that position. And I can bet you that that place is still very effective, except the government is trying to reduce it to nothing, make it look as if it is not even important. In appointments, for instance, you ventured into Benin Republic to quell a coup outside international norms, contrary to the United Nations Charter. I heard the Director General of the Institute say that he was never consulted. Why do you do that? What sort of country is that? Because if they had contacted them, I'm sure a lot of these things should have been caught. These excesses, which display our ignorance, display our ineptitude, it displays our lack of understanding of international law and international relations. So that's the thing I'm asking. Did they subject the list? Did they submit it to the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs? I'm not expecting that maybe the National Assembly should put each of the nominees into a critical examination. But the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs can do that and put questions to them that are relevant to their appointment.
Okay.
And this, I'm sure, will be done.
Okay, Dr. Festus, now we know that in the place of non-career ambassadors, who are just basically people who have been able to effect change in different areas that they find themselves, they have been able to make meaningful and reasonable contributions to the country. Now, the sole responsibility of appointment of non-career ambassadors...
Which areas, my lady, if you don't mind, which areas specifically will you say that Reno Mope has contributed?
Well, I'm not talking about...
Will you say that or even the INEC chairman, or former INEC chairman?
Okay, I'm headed somewhere.
You know,
I'm headed somewhere.
All right.
This is what it should be. Non-career ambassadors are people who have been able to make change.
I agree with you.
Right? So,
Yes.
and the president now is charged with the responsibility of appointing non-career ambassadors. Now, analysts have said that this authority that has been given to the president is maybe one of the reasons that we experience the names of people who are not even supposed to be on the list in the first place. You have mentioned Reno Mokere, you have mentioned Fani Kayode, you have mentioned the likes of Ibas, the one who was just the sole administrator for
in
River State, yes. So these names reflect on this list. Do you think that maybe alongside the president, other bodies should be responsible for the appointment of these ambassadors, or the president should be relieved of this responsibility so that people like the institute that you have mentioned, who are fully aware of the implication of having these ambassadors represent Nigeria in the light that it should be in? Do you think this responsibility should be shifted from the president to bodies like these who are fully aware of the importance of making the right choice? Are you with us? Oh, no.
Dr. Festus, can you hear us? I think the network is fluctuating there.
Yeah.
But we'll get to have Dr. Festus join us again to continue the conversation as it is.
Yeah.
Very salient question you've asked him.
Because, you know, it's very important. Off air, we're having a conversation here, and we talked about the need for this screening.
Of course.
Some of these names that were mentioned, there are names of people that we do not have any public representation.
Not at all.
So we haven't seen them anywhere doing anything at all. We can mention Reno Mokere, we can mention the names that we did mention, because these are more popular ones.
Yeah.
While they are popular, their antecedents, the records, their public history is not one that should earn them a position such as this. So it's important that people who are aware of what it means to represent Nigeria outside Nigeria should also sit on the panel where the appointments would be made.
Of course.
Do we have Dr. Festus?
I think still yet to join us. You know, I also told you off air, basically. Please mute this microphone. I also told you off air that some of the persons that we are asked to bow and go were some of the women who were also nominated for the ambassador position. And whilst that was happening, certain questions were coming to mind. Why not allow these people talk to us? Why not ask them the questions? Because some of these names are names that we've never heard of
Yes,
before.
it was an opportunity for us to know
these individuals.
How did they earn this nomination?
You know, and the truth is, I think that many of them actually prepared for these questions, but the Senate didn't give them that opportunity for them to be talked to.
Did they?
That's why they didn't give them the opportunity. So all we got.
Did they prepare? I mean, now that did they prepare?
I think my thought, because there is no way you're going to come for a screening that you will not prepare, at least even in the littlest of ways. Because
let me tell you why.
You know that
we have seen people pretend to faint right there.
Of course.
This ministerial appointments. We have seen people pretend to faint right there.
Yeah.
And that's because most times these people don't earn this position. They don't earn it. They're just being appointed. And that's why you see that there's a lot of talks around, oh, the president is just trying to compensate some political office holders.
Yeah.
You know, these are political compensations much more than they are about the representation of Nigeria.
Yeah.
And this is such an important step because Nigeria is at a point where we have poor branding. Poor branding in the sense that, you know, there are certain things that had happened before that had sent a negative signal to different parts of the country. Imagine going to get your visas now as a Nigerian. Do you know the kind of check that you have to go through? Going to the airport on international trips, there are checks. The checks are a lot different from what you would see happen to people from other nationalities, right? So it's very important that these people are people that have clear knowledge or clear understanding of what, or clear knowledge or clear understanding of what it should be.
Of course.
Exactly that.
Yeah, we have Dr. Festus joining us again on the conversation. Dr. Festus, let's get you answer the last question. Of course, give us your concluding thought on the subject matter as well.
Yeah. Dr. Festus, did you hear the last question?
I don't know, but I was trying to find a comparative value in the list of ambassadors appointed during the Shehu Shagari era, when I was just a very young.
All right.
I have not been as exposed as I am now, and the one that is now. At that time that the appointments were made during the Shehu Shagari era, I knew over 60% of the appointees. Now, I don't know literally anybody apart from the politically exposed gentlemen that were appointed. It tells us a lot of things. I can't remember the question I posed, and I must apologize for that interruption.
Okay.
And that's the advantage of using a laptop. So you can ask a lot of questions if you want.
All right. The question was basically, you mentioned that there are certain councils that the president, or committees rather, that the president should seek. It happened in past administrations before certain decisions like this are being made. So I'm saying for non-career ambassadors, the sole responsibility of appointment or nomination comes from the office of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Do you maybe think that this responsibility should be shared with members of these committees or councils that are fully aware of the importance of the representation, you know, of Nigeria? Or do you think that it should be completely taken away from the president and assigned to people who are fully aware of what it means to represent Nigeria outside Nigeria?
No, you cannot remove the traditional process of appointments of ambassadors and high commissioners from the president. It's a traditional abode of his position.
Okay, but can it be shared?
It can be shared. Shared in the sense that it may not be contained in the Constitution. It may not be contained in any law, any positive law. It may not be there in any rules of professional whatever. But it should be a mode of ascertaining the eligibility and capacity of those persons who the president recommends. So it is not his own forte, for instance, that it is exclusive to him to make these recommendations. It cannot be. The president does not know who is a good or bad career ambassador, for instance. Who or among the people that praise his name, the people that sing to his glory every day, is a better person for that kind of position. They have the bodies, they have the universities, those are citadels of learning, where they have professors, well-grounded, we have a whole lot of them at the universities here in Nigeria. Bolaji Akinyemi is still there, alive and kicking. You know, why not subject these things to these processes? And I know that the Institute of International Affairs has its own procedure for ascertaining and revealing whatever it is there are about these persons, not just for their credibility, or maybe that this man conducted an election in 2023 and the president won, and is now using that as compensation for him. You think the international community does not know? They know fully well. So it's going beyond the ordinary letters and provisions of laws and constitutions to evolve a practically demonstrable procedure to ascertain the character, the efficiency, the effectiveness, the capacity of the person that we mention or we list out as persons who should be ambassadors to represent the country in a very critical period like this, not just because of the period, but in an all-round procedure that involves all the necessary gadgets of governance and of government to ensure that the right people are put in the right places, that we have square pegs in square holes.
All right, Dr. Festus, thank you so much for your time with us this morning. We appreciate you. Our time is fast spent, and we have to let you go now. Thank you so much for being here with us on the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Festus.
Thanks for inviting me. I wish you a lovely day.
All right, you too.
Have
Have
an
a great
amazing
day.
day ahead.
We'll be talking with Dr. Festus Oguche, an international foreign affairs analyst as well, and he's giving us his 2 cents regarding the ambassador nomination. And of course, this is where we call it a wrap on the conversation this month. Before we go, just a quick final thought from you, Martha.
I mean, we've said everything, literally everything that needs to be said. And from my last question to Dr. Festus, if the president alone, or I think that the president alone should not be left with the responsibility of appointing these non-career ambassadors, because again, the office of the president is such a huge responsibility and a task that might not allow him to do critical analysis before the appointment. So if a council is being set, or if a committee is being set to help screen the nomination from the table of the president, first of all, before it goes out to the House, I think it will be a more effective or efficient system. These people should be people that are able to give Nigeria the representation that it needs outside of Nigeria or globally. It should not be a case of, you know, someone just being there as a result of compensation. There are jobs that you can learn on, but there are certain jobs that you cannot afford to learn on. You need to have the experience before you get into the job. And I think that the position of the ambassador is one of such roles. Someone who already works in that capacity or is fully aware of the descriptions and the requirements of his office is someone that should be given the position, or are people that should be given the position. All
right, that being said, this is what we call it a wrap on the program this morning. Do remember that you can follow us across all our social media pages, across all platforms at Rapid TV. And of course, you can get to watch all our episodes on our YouTube channel at Official Rapid TV. And wherever you are in the world, you can always watch us live using our website, www.arabianradiotv.com. My name is Victor. Okay.
And my name is Martha Alu, and we'll see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.